All right, so I'm joined by the owner and founder of Engage Pickleball, Robert Elliot. Robert, how is it going today? How's the weather out there?
Well, I live in Florida, so the weather's always good. So thanks, Jacob, for having me on the show, and I'm excited. So again, thanks.
Yeah. So, Robert, I don't think many people know who you are and how did Engage start and to where you come to now. If you want to give us a little background about yourself.
Yeah, I would say people don't know, lately because I've been kind of out of the scene for a little while. I mean, it has been, I would probably say,
Mm-hmm.
lack of better words. But Engage has been around for 10 years. We started pickleball 12 years ago, and about 10 years ago we started Engage. And my wife and I, at the time 10 years ago, were pro players, top 10. Playing, my partners were Ben Johns, and later on, a couple years after that, and everything, since he wasn't around 10 years ago and things like that. So we started playing. We come from tennis, and we got into moved to Florida, got introduced to pickleball, started playing, started teaching. Engage Pickleball Camps is one of the largest training entities out there. And long story short, is really kind of fun. My wife and I, we're traveling around the country playing tournaments, and I just said to my wife, I go, I don't think you could feel that paddle. And she goes, I can't. So she switched from, the number one manufacturer at the time to the next manufacturer. I go, I still don't think you could feel it. So being an
Yeah.
engineer, and I used to teach tennis at Nick Bollettieri's Tennis Academy, and I'm a science buff. Everything. She goes, can you create me a paddle? I said, sure. I think it was the dumbest thing I've ever said yes to in my life, other than another one, but that's another story. And so 9 months later or so, I created her, our first paddle. Long story short, we were pro players playing with the top players at the time. They all wanted to use it. Within six months at nationals, we had half the medals. And within a couple years, we were one of the top three manufacturers, and we've gone ever since. And it's all because my wife wanted a better failing paddle. And now
Okay.
we're 10 years, still one of it, made in USA, still today, which just has its challenges, but that's kind of the short version of it, how we got started.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you were a former top player and also formerly Ben John's partner. I actually, it's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was going to ask you any tough questions, but I didn't know you were Ben John's former partner. So I feel like I have to ask, what
Yeah.
do you think about Ben John's? Well, he negotiated
Ben's
pulling
a good
out
guy.
of the MLP tournament, but do you know? Have you been following
Oh,
that?
controversy. You're going right into the
Well,
controversy.
you didn't tell me you were Ben John's
No,
partner, so I'm just going
I
to go
did.
there.
All right.
Any,
Well,
any
let me go
thoughts
back,
on
then
that?
I'll address that. So I stopped playing pro about 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So, what made me stop is that 6, 7 years ago, US Open pro singles.
Hmm.
And at that year, I played with Ben 19 plus, and I
Okay.
got to the finals with Ben and everything. But singles, I was late, missed the first match, won the rest. You couldn't go from the bronze, so went all the way through. So I'm standing in the medal stand at 47 years old, and there's Ben with the gold at that time, like 19 or whatever he was, and
Hmm.
Kyle Yates at maybe 22, 23, and I'm standing there on CBS, and I'm thinking, both of their ages together don't even equal my age. Like, what am I
Hmm.
doing?
Yeah.
So that was my last pro tournament. That's it, and I basically retired from playing and so forth. But anyways, that's the story. But no, latest controversy with Ben. I'll just say Ben's an awesome guy. He is who he appears and all that stuff, and he's been true to himself. So any controversy out there, there's a reason. And I'm not going to say anything because I've known Ben for a long time, and he's a good guy.
Fair
And like I
enough.
said, there's a reason, and I'm
Nope.
sure it's a legit reason.
I hear you. We got to ride or die for our friends out there, so I understand.
No,
what,
that's
what,
good. I don't live in the gossip either.
I have
This
a
and
different
that, and
opinion,
people
but
like the
we'll leave it
PR.
at. Well, I have a different opinion,
Yeah,
but we'll leave it at that. I've already voiced my
we'll leave it at
opinion,
that.
so we're here for Engage. So I want to just get into
Okay.
Engage. I saw I think it was a couple days ago. I saw a notification that the Pursuit Alpha got approved. What's that all about?
Wow, you're really in the know.
I
Yeah.
know everything. I know everything.
So yeah, yeah, that's a new paddle. So Our flagship paddle right now is the Pro One line. We have four paddles that hit every playing style. That's how I designed it. So again, being a pro player, one of the top instructors out there, Engage Pickleball Camps is one of the largest training entities, and so forth. So I come from an engineering pro player and all that stuff. So we design paddles for the player, and we're kind of known for the performance paddle and everything. But yeah, so and stuck in the Made in USA and everything. But there's a certain limitations there. So sometimes you have to stretch out. So the Alpha, thanks for bringing that up. I didn't know you were going to bring that up because I didn't know anyone knew about the Alpha. And that is our code name. The name might change, but I'm super excited about it. It is probably coming in the June timeframe, early July. It is a, Gen 3/Gen 4 plus type paddle. And it's a control-based paddle because our Pro One is our power version. If you want power, you got to stick with the Pro One. But, we went all out with this one. It's thermoformed. It's got all the bells and whistles and everything. And if you want a control paddle, we're going to price it right, too. This is a deviation from Made in USA because the technology doesn't exist here. It is made overseas. But, anywhere you get the paddle on the ball's going over the net. The sweet spot is gigantic. It's raw T700 thermoform. Foam injection. It took my 10 years of designing paddles to make it like no other. And I'm pretty excited. And it's going to be in that $180, $200 price range as, all the bells and whistles, you're a control player. And some people, we've had a lot of testing and they're walking through the transition area and they go, I just have to get the paddle on the ball and it goes over as long as it's pointing up. That's the Alpha. And I'm kind of excited. It's our control paddle.
Well, so when you say control paddle, I think different people have different definitions. Does it not have the top end power that the Pursuit Pro ones have, or is it still powerful? It just doesn't have like the poppiness that bursts off the paddle. If you're just holding the paddle there.
Yeah, it's what you said there is that our Pro One is designed for power, flex. And I hope you get into that, this whole Gen 1, Gen 4 misdemeanor that nobody really understands, that it's a false thing that's out there. There's a reason we use Gen 1 for flex and paddle head acceleration you can't get with the Gen 4s and thermoform paddles. So, but this paddle is a control paddle. You don't need the flex and everything. So we went there. So as of right now, the Pro One line, which has four paddles, of innovation, elongated hybrid, that's for the power players, those that want it. And again, there's different shapes, whatever range of power you want. But for the control player, and the Alpha still has power, don't get me wrong, because everybody wants power, but it does have a little less power than our Pro One line. But it's got the control in everything, the sweet spot, the entire paddle face is a sweet spot, that you can dictate the point. So you can move the ball around, hit the spot where you want. But again, as soon as there's an opening, you can put the ball away without any effort. So you can get back into that ready position. It's really designed for that person that really wants to dictate the point versus just raw power.
Is it coming in all your shapes, your wide body elongated hybrid, or is it just coming out in your elongated shape at first?
Yeah, it's coming out on elongated first, thick and thin. So if you want a little bit more of the control aspects, you got the thicker, of course, as everybody knows. And if you want a little bit more power, a little firmer feel, a little more power, it's coming in the thin version. And it will be coming in a wide body. I'd call it the more modified wide body because everyone's used to, standard wide body is 16/8, give or take, with 5-inch grip. It's going to be about a 15 7/8 by 8 1/8 with about a 5.3-inch grip, which is kind of that sweet spot for people looking for that paddle now. There's a few paddles out there. Our Pro One elongated is there and everything. So it's going to come in that modified wide body shape too, probably about a month later. So it'll be two shapes, thick and thin.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, personally, I think making anything with just a basic 5-inch handle is worthless. I think these days, like I know like one person that plays with a 5-inch handle, but I mean, it's always good to serve
a lot of them.
It's good. Okay, I hear you. I think it's definitely moving towards
EX 6.0 still sells a lot, but I agree. I
it's
agree
hard.
with that standard shape and everything. That 5.3 is really the sweet spot for those type of standard shape paddles. I agree with you.
I mean, I don't mind the 5-inch handle. It's just like I can't hit the two-handed backhand with it. Like I try, and it's just
No, you can't.
it's not possible. So yeah, that's
No,
the only problem. If
it's
you
like on
play
the paddle
one-handed,
face. Yeah,
yeah,
one
you get
hand, but
like
the two
no
hand is still
power
kind of new. Not everyone does it. Yeah, it's
for
still
for
that's
sure.
still two-handed backhand is still fairly new.
Yeah, I mean, and you were talking about like Gen 1 through 4. Like it's, I mean, I feel like when we had Gen 1 and just Gen 2, it was easy because it's like, all right, one's cold pressed, and then we got the hot molded thermoform paddles as Gen 2.
Yeah,
But then once we started going to Gen 3 and 4, it gets too confusing because no one's defining it the same way, and there's too many different things
they're
now.
not.
So I
Yeah,
honestly don't, I just kind of throw those terms out the window because I'm like, doesn't matter. Just
a
tell me
lot of
how
people
your
do.
paddle's constructed, and I think that's what a lot of the
Yeah.
reviewers are doing now. It's like we don't just throw out the gen terms, just tell us how it's constructed, and that's all that matters because we can't like bucket everything into like one category anymore.
No,
So yeah, I
no,
but it's
I agree
this
with
is the
you.
first time you've went to overseas to make paddles. This is the first paddle, or
No,
you've
it's
okay,
actually it's our second paddle.
okay,
We have our recreational model, which I think we're killing it at right now. So we have our, we've Engage has always been known about performance paddles. Who I went after, right? I was a pro
hmm
level player. I went after performance players. That's it, right? But we're missing a big mark, and I knew that as the owner of Engage and stuff. So we just lowered the price point of a couple paddles. So we do have what I think is the best paddles out there. I love this to get out there and people try it because I'll do a challenge. You don't like it, I don't care. 69 days, I'll take the money back. I'll give you your money back because I really do think we have the best recreational paddles. So we do have recreational wise, which we're not known for, but we're taking. You got to think we started with the performance paddles, so we know how to do performance paddles. Take that performance for a recreational player. We've been there. We didn't go like starting at the bottom and try to create a performance. We
yeah,
already know how to create a good
yeah.
paddle. So we've got a 140, 139.99, but 140 what we call our Aero paddle, and it is a thermoformed raw T700 foam injection paddle with a hole in it, everything at 140, which is comparable to my competitors' $220 paddles. It's got all the China overseas bells and whistles for only 140. Amazing paddle.
Is is
And
that
then we've
under
got
your
the
engage line? The
yeah,
arrow?
yeah, it's an arrow. It's
Okay.
under engaged. So that is our first
Okay.
one. And if you want the bells and whistles for the best price, and everyone says, why do you price it at 140? That's comparable to your competitors' 180 to $220 paddles. And I said, well, it's not made in USA. It's we all know what the price point is. So I'm not going to fleece America. So it's a right price for what I get it at. So again, it has everything you could think of that a lot of competitors have at a higher price points, and we're selling a lot of them. I bought enough initially for 3 months. We sold out in 3 weeks
How long's that been out for?
since November, but we were sold out for a
Okay.
couple months trying to get it, and we just restocked up. And I have huge inventories coming in because we just have a hard time keeping in because you got to think 140 for a thermoformed raw T700 foam injection paddle. There's not a whole lot at $140, and it's that good. It should be tried. And then we have our Made in USA Pursuit V 2.0 at $100, 99.99. And again, another USA made paddle at 59.99, Encore Pro V 2.0. So at 60, 100, and 140, it's pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And I'd love
Yeah.
an engaged challenge out there at that price point. I'm pretty excited about it. And we just lowered the price point of the Pursuit and the Encore from 180 to 100 and 100 to 60. And our dealers can't even keep them in stock right now.
Is the Encore the white background one? Or is
Yes.
that okay?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was probably my first like I would say like upgrade paddle
A
like when
lot
I
of
first started
people's.
playing, and I was like I was researching and then I ended up with that. I mean I wonder if I still have it because it'd be interesting to pull out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
You
one of
want
my
you want to
first
hear
ones.
something? Yeah,
Yeah,
so you want to
sure.
hear something fascinating? That was our second paddle we ever made, the Encore Pro.
Okay.
It's still today my favorite paddle ever.
Wow.
So 6, 7 years ago, I stopped playing pro tournaments and getting the bronze at the U.S. Open, Open Pro at again 47, crazy, stupid. I 2 weeks in bed after that. But Encore Pro was the paddle I used. I had the Pursuit, higher end, carbon fiber, all that. I just love the Encore Pro. That's the paddle I used. And the Encore Pro now, that Encore Pro V 2.0 is that same paddle, now only $60. And my
Oh wow.
wife, after there, I was just going to throw it away. She turned into a clock, so it's actually in my office and everything. But it's the same technology, and it's a great paddle. It just lasts for a long time.
Okay.
My paddle's over a year old that I was playing with. It's a tank.
That's crazy. Well, that's good. So I mean, like one of my questions was, do you see yourself innovating in the space? But obviously, the
Hmm.
making it in the U.S. limits your challenges. But you already kind of answered that.
It
You're already
does.
going overseas, and you have different ideas. I mean, you have this new
Hmm.
alpha paddle coming out. I mean, I'm sure you have other stuffs in the work. Have you
Yeah.
experimented with like all foam? Are you trying any different
Yeah.
cores besides like honeycomb
Oh
polymer?
yeah.
Like, what is there anything you can share
Yeah.
with us that you think is? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, you don't want to
I don't
give
want to
away
share
any
too much.
secrets. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
don't want to
know
give
that.
any away
But
secrets. But
no.
are you experimenting with different materials that you
Hmm.
haven't seen used yet?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we are. We
interesting.
always have. So when Gage came on, we were always the innovator. New paddle every six
Hmm.
months. That's my thing, right? I'm an engineer with a and chemistry background. Like that's it. Between being a pro player, an instructor, an engineer, and that's still we're the only manufacturer actually that the person that designs the paddle is a pro level player and
Hmm.
a top level instructor and an engineer. Still, no other manufacturer can say that. So, and with our camps being one of the largest camp providers, we get a lot of input. So we know what people are looking for. That's always the thing. So the Pro One line, I believe, and I love. Let's get in that after this, the Gen One, Gen Four, that whole topic. Because I love to burst that bubble open. But anyways, yeah. So we're playing with a lot of different things that could be done in the U.S., things that can't be done in the U.S. Some really creative stuff because I love tinkering, and
Hmm.
and that's what we do. So, we have high density foam coming. We have the typical Gen 4 coming with foam injection in weird places to create flex. But that's the intricacies of the other new technologies in the thermoformed is that I'm a true believer in flex, head acceleration, designing a
Okay.
paddle to do what you want it to do as an engineer and a high level player and instructor, you need the paddle to work dynamically with you, with your
Hmm.
swing speed. So when you get into a thermoform design, right, you have the skin, the hard skin. So because the cores are nothing, the cores, the foam and the polypropylene, you could crumble them in your hand. There's nothing
Hmm.
there. All the strength of the paddle is in the skin. So if you have a thermoform, the skin is firm and it wraps around the paddle, creating a shell. So you're limiting flex and all that stuff. With an open cell, or people calling Gen 1, um, it's a hard skin, and it's open cell here. But you
Yep.
get the flex of the paddle. So as the ball hits, there's more dwell time, which is a new term now that people are really using now. So just common sense. If the paddle flexes, the ball will remain on the paddle longer. You can only get that with a Gen 1, with an open cell technology, a cold press technology. Thermoform, that's a hard shell all around, the paddle
Hmm.
doesn't flex as much. You don't get as much feel. You can't get as much head acceleration. And the Pro 1 line that we have, it's all about power. The faster you swing, the more the head will accelerate, the more flex you'll have. The slower you swing, the less flex you'll have when you don't want it. When I'm thinking, I don't want flex. I want to
Hmm.
control that ball. But as I swing harder and harder, I want to be able to control that, what I call variable release technology, the ability for that paddle to explode the faster I swing. So I can
Yeah.
control that. You can only do that with Gen 1 cold press technology. You can't do that with thermoformed. So that's why I chose
Hmm.
cold press for our Pro 1 line, not thermoformed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I guess I haven't experienced like especially with some like the Yola Pro 4 stuff. I feel like it gets
Mm-hmm.
pretty good dwell time. I don't think
It
it's like
does.
a
It's a good
hindrance
paddle.
being
I'm not going to
thermoformed
do
with the
anything wrong.
foam. No, I mean not to bring up a competitor, but I feel like
No, that's okay. Yeah,
in
the Pro 4 is a
I
good
mean
paddle. Nothing against
I mean
Yola. Yeah, it's a good
yeah,
paddle.
the problem I think a lot of people have is usually the sweet spots on these Gen 1 paddles
Mm-hmm.
are a little bit smaller. Do you think there's
Mm-hmm.
a way to overcome that, or like
100%.
do you think yeah,
Yeah.
and
So it's all the engineer, right? So there's a lot of things that we stuck with the Pro 1 line, which are flagship line cold press. And the
mhm,
people, your reviewers, saying the same thing you just said. But being an engineer, chemist, physicist, and all this stuff there's definitely ways. So if you look at, thermoform is not new. Platform tennis, all the stuff. I've used thermoforms for 20, 30 years. It's not new. It's new to
Hmm.
pickleball, but it's
Yeah.
not new technology at all.
Yeah.
Technically, the open cell is newer than thermoformed
Hmm.
in paddle sports. So the fact is that 100%. So when you take, cold press, which is the only difference really is the sides are open. Really, that's the only difference, right? It's soft. There's no
Yep.
hard shell around the sides, create a shell. That's the only difference between Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4 is that Gen 1 is open cells, you have more flex, which I
Hmm.
think is instrumental in feel and dwell time and head acceleration. But so if you take a Gen 4, and like you said it too, is people don't really know what Gen 4 really means. And Gen 1, they just
I.
think, hey, it has to be better. But, foam
I.
injection, right? So,
Uh huh.
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I would class it. I think the common understanding is Gen 4 is like all foam, no honeycomb is what people would
Okay.
generally
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And we'll get to that, but we do have one coming, I
Sure.
have to say, just
Okay.
to the people that like it. I'm really excited about that one. But, you got to think of a Gen 1 or then Gen 3, right? The thermoform with foam injection side. So when you create a Gen 1, the skin, you still have to design the skin. Is it one layer carbon, two layer, three layer? Is there a fiberglass layer, just like a thermoform paddle? The core
Hmm.
construction. What is the core? What is the cell thickness? What is the diameter? What is the wall thickness? All the same. Where do you put foam? So our Pro 1 line between the wide body, hybrid, elongated innovation, I have different foam at different places and different density foam, exactly the same
Hmm.
as thermoform. So the technology, what goes into a Gen 1 is identical to a Gen 2, Gen 3, Gen 4. I still have to figure out the shape, the size, the weight. So with, some people saying without having the hard side, your sweet spot smaller. But that's why the innovation, which is our, the Pro 1 paddle for the attackers, the ones that are swinging like lunatics because they want that power, keep them in. We have weight distribution. So we insert weight in different places of the paddle to expand that sweet spot. And we use a higher density foam in some of the Pro 1 paddles to make that sweet spot bigger. We've always been known for large sweet spots because we
Hmm.
actually bond our skin to the core differently. In thermoform paddles, the core is not bonded, they're baked together. We
Yep.
actually uniformly connect the core to the skin to enlarge our sweet spot, which is
Okay.
fundamentally so. Theoretically, I'll challenge any thermoform paddle out there that our Pro 1 paddles have a bigger sweet spot than them because of how we actually bond the core to the skin.
Yeah.
And what we do,
Uh,
we pay extra money for the way we do it.
I think part of the problem maybe is a lot of the Pro ones came in pretty light, at least the ones I played.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you come in though that stock low weight and still I don't know what the percentage of people that modify and add weight onto their paddle, but it's definitely still like pretty small percentage unless until you start getting to the higher level players. I think that might be part of the problem is when you build these
Yeah,
paddles light, it's always going to have suffer a little bit of sweet spot just because they're going to twist in your
100%.
hands more the lighter they are. So
Yeah, the
I
worst
know
thing you
you
do is put
guys
a light paddle in someone's hands.
yeah, I know you guys you still offer like choosing your own weight range, or is that not
We
something you do
we
anymore?
we modified it. So we've always up to recently had a light and standard. Now, as
Hmm.
a instructor, I never recommended a light paddle. Some people just
Yeah.
need a light paddle, but women 7'8" to 7'9". My wife 5'3", small and all that stuff. She's always played with an 8'2". We all know, and all top instructors teach, the heavier the weight, the better the paddle because it's
Hmm.
denser. It has a bigger sweet
Yeah.
spot because it's a denser paddle and everything. So we agree. So we've recently moved all of our paddles to one weight range, 7'8" to 8'2". If
Okay.
anybody out there plays the paddle under 7'8", you're actually hurting your game. As an
Yeah.
instructor, like you said, the twist weight is too light. It can't handle the pace that's
Yeah.
being hit
You're
at them.
getting more
You're actually hurting
vibration
your game.
too.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. Yeah. Now you've got to be, I try to get everyone, even women, small women, all that stuff, older men, at least to an 8.0 ounce, because you're going to get the inherent benefits of that more denser. It's physics, right? Equal and
Hmm.
opposite. The more force hits your paddle, the more that's absorbed. The heavier the paddle, the better it is. But of course, it's diminishing returns. Don't go above like 8.5 because it's diminishing
Yeah.
return of quickness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to find the sweet spot for people in the weight, but definitely I'm always like when the paddles come in really late, I'm like, I think you're doing a, not you personally, but like just it's a disservice to the people because most people aren't
It
going to
is.
modify it. They're going to try it right away and
I
they're gonna
agree.
like, nope, trash, and then
No.
they're going to move on.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
And
and I know
they
some
think my
like the
hands are
hardcore
quicker.
want it like, yeah, yeah,
It's fun.
it's like it's just it isn't the best thing in my opinion, but that's good that
I agree.
you have a standard weight range. I think it benefits because when I see people
Mhm.
offering like 7.5, 7.6, I'm like, ooh, it's going to be really bad out of the box. So I'm like, I don't
I
love it.
agree. It's going to hurt their game, and we tell them if you go
Yeah,
7.5, 7.6. Now again, if you have major tennis elbow, but again, tennis elbow, you might be benefit from a heavier paddle because a light
yeah,
paddle you're going to get wristy, and you don't want to be
hmm
wristy. But if you have like surgery or the wrist, I mean, on your shoulder and things like that, you might just have to have that. But that's a rare
yeah,
exception. But I
hmm
totally agree with you. Anything under 7.8, you're actually going to hurt your game.
yeah. So I don't know if you had any other thoughts exactly on paddles. I kind of wanted to ask, we could deviate back to paddles. I kind of want to ask you about how you feel
Okay.
about the UPAA like certification program. I know you have decreased your pro sponsors lately. I think Jesse
Yeah, we
Irvine is
have.
really your only top pro left anymore. Is there anyone I'm missing?
No, we did.
Okay.
You know, a year ago, April, we pretty much had the third largest pro team. And you're correct. Over the last year, we did decrease it for a reason to find the right pros. And
hmm
we're about to make a couple big announcements, you know, internationally and everything. So
Are you signing me?
we wanted
No, just,
to.
just kidding.
All right, that's
Keep
another
going.
off conversation
Off.
there. But no, so yeah, we're growing huge international and everything. So you know,
Okay.
it's finding the right players. You know, Jesse's been with us for 6 years for a reason. You know, Jesse's awesome. Yeah, everyone loves Jessie. She's all there. There's a reason she's been with us for 6 years. You know, and you know, we're looking for the right pro players that you know. We're a family, right? We're one of the largest, you know, top five brands in the world and but we still like to treat our players as family and everything, and you know, and it's a give and take, and you know, you treat us, we treat you, and all that. But I think this speaks volume that someone like Jesse's been with us for so long, and we have some really exciting players we're about to announce internationally, top. You know, in some countries, the top ever tennis players that ever in these countries that I'm really excited
hmm
about that are giving back. They're helping the youth. They're giving lesson tips and all that stuff, and that's what we're about.
Yeah.
Those are the pro players we're looking for. Those that are giving back,
hmm
as we do, and so that's kind of what we're looking for. So we're about to announce three, just to let you know,
Yep.
international top. You know, in their countries, they were the top tennis players ever. So
Okay.
I'm excited.
I mean, you don't have to give me any names, but could you give me a country? Where are we talking? Europe,
No,
Asia?
no,
No,
I'm not gonna
nothing.
yet.
Can't
No,
get
not
anything
until
out
the
of him.
ink
All
is
right.
dry. No,
He's a
but
vault. He's a vault. I know it's. I mean, like
yeah,
we saw the Guangdong sign a deal with a Vietnamese pickleball paddle company, so it's
yeah,
definitely
yeah. Yep, it is.
growing all around. So I think that's a good space to move
International's growing
into.
pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
do you sell paddles internationally right now?
huge. So
Okay.
we have over 120 dealers and distributors globally right now, outside of the U.S.
Wow. That's huge. Wow.
About
Okay.
2 weeks, we're about to announce that we've got local distribution in Canada, Mexico, a couple countries in South America, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Australia. We have local distribution with free shipping, 2 day shipping to people, local returns, customer service. So we're the first company that's actually going to have local distribution. So when you order on our website in any of those countries, you're going to get it in 2 days, no customs, no fees and all that stuff. And I'm super excited
That
about that. But again, yeah, Canada, 27 countries in EU, no more customs. UK, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, Mexico. You're going to be able to buy Engage Paddle with 2 day shipping, free shipping, no customs in about 2 to 4 weeks.
That's pretty good. That's great for especially I know the Canadians like they don't have many options. They're always going. They're paying.
Now they
I would
don't.
because someone was asking me about
Yeah.
paddles there, and I was looking at the prices. I'm like, wow, it's almost like double the price of
I know.
buying paddles here.
It's
I'm like,
crazy.
geez.
And yeah, and we started this whole thing before the whole tariff war and all that stuff. We won't get into politics. That'll be a whole nother conversation for you. It might be a whole
Hmm.
nother business venture for you to get into politics, but anyways, we won't go there. But yeah, so we started that before that because we have a big percentage of our sales are international. Like I said, we have
Hmm.
well over 100 dealers and distributors. Customer service, all those countries we mentioned is, warranty return, all that stuff is all local within the country for that
Okay.
response time and everything. So that's going to be a huge announcement. And all those countries were announcing pro level players and future program for the inspiring pros in all those countries. And now we can support them locally.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm excited to see the game grow internationally. I think that's the next
Yes,
step to
it's good.
launching it to the world stage. So I'm
I
excited
think so
about
too.
that.
We got to do pickleball in the U.S. We got to come back padel in the rest of the world, and it's there. Like I just talked to somebody in India, and they put the first courts in where they are. They thought they had the first 7 courts. Now there's 50 in their town. A
Wow.
month later, like, okay, yeah, we thought we'd be the
Yeah.
first, and now there's a lot of options. So it
I mean,
is starting to accelerate internationally now.
it definitely explodes fast. I mean, like even in my area, we've had 10 indoor facilities go up in the last year.
Hmm.
Every year, there's like 5 cities opening new outside courts. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
exploding, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wondering when it's going to, kind of calm down because obviously we've been through like an explosive growth phase, and it can't go on forever. But I guess it could go on for a while internationally. So,
Yeah. Yeah, internationally it is, but yeah, domestically here, the indoor facilities are crazy. They're popping up everywhere.
mhm.
But I'm excited that they're most of the facilities are now opening up padel. And this is a little tidbit you're the first to know is that we're actually launching I have the final prototypes of our Engage padel paddle coming, and we've already tested
Okay.
them and everything. So this fall, Engage has padel and beach tennis coming.
Wow. Am I going to have to add padel and beach tennis to my reviews? I mean, there is a padel
Yeah, you
facility
have to
that's
do
like
ours
15 minutes
first.
away. I guess
Yeah,
I,
I'll come up.
I
We'll play. It's fun.
okay.
It's a good
Okay.
sport. So we're actually going there. So yeah,
Will
we've
you
been
be here
in
for Beer
development for a
City?
while.
Any chance for beer? You'll be
No,
here for Beer City?
I miss Bear City. It's a great
Okay.
event and all that stuff.
Okay.
But I don't know if you're gonna do a Padel review. Maybe I'll make the trip up there and we can kind of play together.
I'm down. I mean, you tell me when, and we'll make it happen. And I've never
Okay.
played before still, so we'll see. I don't know what the review exactly will be. I'll have to just give my first thoughts. I know some people are converting or some people are playing both. I don't necessarily
It's a
have the
younger
time
person sport.
yeah. Yeah, I quit
Yeah,
tennis
it's you're not gonna
because
have the
it was
seniors
getting
there.
hard. Yeah, it was getting hard on my body, so I did. Yeah, we'll see. But it does
Yeah.
look fun.
I'm
I'll be honest. If I was
yeah
18 again, I'd probably be playing
yeah
padel like a lot.
yeah
It
and.
looks really
And,
fun.
the, and that's the thing. It's not going to take over pickleball. It won't because pickleball anyone can play without a
Hmm.
whole lot of effort. Anyone can get decent, right? Pickleball.
Yeah.
That's the fun of pickleball, and it's
Hmm.
fun for everybody. Padel, it's awesome and incredible, but it's a lot of work. It's almost like to
Yeah.
get good in tennis takes years. To get good in padel
Yeah.
takes years, and you have to be quick and nimble and young. So it's going to hit a demographic, but it's definitely the younger demographic, the older
Yeah.
demographic, 40s, even 50 and above. They're going to stick with pickleball.
Yeah. Well, the barrier to entry is even higher than tennis as well. The facilities are
Mhm.
expensive. You just
Oh, it's like a
the
hundred
cost
thousand
to have
dollars
a
a quarter
court.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just never going to be as popular as pickleball because it's so much
No.
cheaper to enter the sport. So you can never beat that. I mean, that's why soccer
No.
took off. You just need a ball. You can make a
Yes.
goal out of
Yeah.
anything. I mean, and I
Well, you think
it's
tennis
yeah.
courts, right? A rundown tennis courts. You could stick four, possibly six, if you stretch it a little bit. For $50,000, you could take two rundown tennis courts and make a four to
Hmm.
six pickleball facility.
Yeah.
And it's a padel court's 80 to 100,000 for one.
Yeah, it's never going to overtake pickleball. I don't. It'll never
No,
overtake tennis. But
it's
it's
not.
a fun. I just like racket sports. I
Me too.
racket sports have always been my thing, whether it's badminton or whatever. So I
All right.
just get the
Well, I'm
paddle
going
or
to
racket
send
in
you
my
in the
hand.
next month or so. I'm going to send you our go forward that we're launching in the fall, our beach and padel. I'm going to send it to you. You go there and have some fun with it, and then we'll touch
All
base.
right,
We'll have another one of these calls.
that's a plan. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that you have planned? You got beach tennis, and padel. You've got the alpha coming. Is there anything
Yep.
that is almost about to be passed that you have planned, or is the alpha the next big thing, and we got to
No,
wait longer to know what's coming after that?
no, the Alpha's not our next big. It's a way to take our Pursuit Pro that we've had out for a couple years, which is at
Okay.
$200. It's our new
Hmm.
control paddle, even though we're selling a real lot of Pursuit Pros at 199.99.
Yeah.
We're last 30 days, actually, the Pursuit Pro is our top selling paddle at $200. Um, but the thing is, no, it's that way to get the latest technology into those people that are control people. That again, it's
Okay.
powerful. Don't get me wrong; it's just not as powerful as our Pro One. But we've got foam ejection coming. We've got the typical Gen 3, Gen 4. We've got all that coming too. So we're gonna have if you love the U.S. made flexing head acceleration Pro One type of paddles, we've got you covered. You want
Hmm.
a high density foam, 2 3 months, we've got that. You want the Gen 3/4, honeycomb with foam injection thermoform, we're going to have that too with the engaged customers. We've been here 10 years. We're known for our customer service. We just have you covered. So if one technology doesn't work for you, you could trade it in for the other that you think is better for you. And that's kind of what I'm modeling
Gotcha.
our team around, is that we've got
Okay.
we've got the technology for you.
Okay. I don't have any other paddle questions. If you have anything else that you wanted
I
to
think that's good.
get get off your chest, yeah, I think we covered quite a wide range
I
of
know.
stuff.
It was a
So
kind of good
I
conversation. I liked it. I appreciate it.
yeah, yeah. So I appreciate you joining me. I hope we'll probably touch base maybe in a couple months whenever you have some more
Yes.
news to talk about, and we'll get you back on here. But I appreciate your time, and it was great having you on.
Yeah. Thanks again. I appreciate it.